What's up everyone, it's Russo. I hope everyone is doing well. Please follow my Instagram at Russo Lifts, just in case something happens to this YouTube channel. You can follow, message, and you can watch my daily story content on Instagram. I'll see you there. What's up everyone, it's Russo. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm here with IFBB Pro Nate Glaser. So Nate Glaser is not just an IFBB Pro, but a NPC posing coach, as well as an NPC judge. So I want to do this topic video with Nate on what not to do when you're posing on stage and what docks you the most from a judging standpoint. So you do NPC, so IFBB probably should have posing figured out by the time you get to IFBB.
You would hope so, yes, for the most part.
But with NPC, you're seeing all the newbies, you know, take that step, get on stage, embarrassed up there. Like, what's the game plan as far as don't do this when you're on stage?
Well, I'll say the first thing would be practice, practice, practice. Actually get somebody that can help you. You need somebody to critique you. I did everything wrong my first show. I did a show last minute, had a guy help me just a couple times, so I was not prepared, so learning from my own experience. I really think the best thing is you have to practice early. Like for you, for your show, you're starting now, which is the right thing you should do, not a month out. So it's really important to practice. A couple reasons. One, you need to make sure that you can hit the poses without looking at yourself in the mirror, that you're confident in your poses, and you have to have conditioning whenever you're hitting the poses. Otherwise, we can tell immediately everybody will start shaking because they're squeezing so hard. We can tell that you haven't practiced. So if you start shaking on stage, it's a very good sign that you probably weren't ready and you're a rookie. It's a dead giveaway. So practice would be the primary thing, in my opinion, to make sure you're ready to hit transitions, be confident primarily, not shaking on stage. From there, it's like getting a little bit more nitty gritty into like transitions and being smooth, but more importantly, I'd say the practice, at least hitting the mandatories correctly, confidently, without shaking while you're on stage.
Okay, so shaking's like a big no-no.
Oh, that's bad. It looks really bad. So
because like if I didn't compete or know anything about competing, like I'd be like, I want to flex as hard as I can.
And you think that's what you should do, but
like,
yeah, you have to like go to 99%, not allow it should look effortless is the point, right? So as soon as that happens, we know that it's not effortless for you, you're not portraying the part, and it's not smooth. It's bad, yeah. That's the biggest giveaway that you haven't practiced, that you're green and we know right away. Yeah. So that'd be the biggest thing I'd say. The rest of it is just fine tuning. That will separate you on like regional shows or when you're getting a little bit more competitive, that will separate you from other guys, how good your transitions are. But in the beginning, it's hitting the poses, staying big for the most part if you're like bodybuilding, for example, and just having confidence in your posing would be the best thing. Yeah.
As far as like when the person is on stage, judges are down there, audience is more out there. Where are you dictating the pose? Is it to the judge or is it upwards?
It should be to the judge. We're judging you, so you want to make it look at our eye level, right? So they will tell you from the back, you need to lean backwards so we can see a better look at your back. So for any back poses, right? So you have to lean back a little bit on those poses and understand that we're below you and we're the ones judging. It's gonna be the most important for us to see the best version of you. Yeah. So always keep in mind where the judges are and they're below you. So you have to remember that, yeah.
What's a good like rule of thumb of like, because obviously you touched on like you want to be smooth, you want to look like a statue, and it like
it's effortless, yeah.
Arnold-esque and like control the crowd and everything. Like how much practice do you do when you know like, okay, I'm ready?
Yeah, if you're just starting, I'd say if you're checking in like once a week with your coach, for example, at least do it, I'd say 15 to 20 minutes that day, right? Once a week in the off season, right? Not just when you're prepping. When you get closer to a show, I'd practice more frequently. I'd say at like 2 months out, I'd probably try to practice every day. And specifically, I would encourage you to practice after you work out when you're fatigued. That will help with the conditioning part we're talking about. So that you're not shaking on stage. You want to practice, in my opinion, when you're fatigued, after workout, when you're depleted in your diet. You want to do it more frequently the closer you get. I would encourage you, again, to work with somebody to critique your posing along the way. I do that at least a handful of times, in my opinion, because you don't even know you're making mistakes, right? So you have to correct them early.
You don't even know, like, if you're not firing your hamstring from the back or any of that.
And the thing, too, is I would encourage you, too, what I didn't understand the first time is I would look at myself in the mirror and correct myself. You need to get away from doing that, in my opinion. When you first start, feel free to do it, but get away from it, record yourself, then go back and watch it, because otherwise you'll be on stage and you won't know the cues because you always relied on a mirror. So I'd not to rely on a mirror whenever you're actually actually practicing. Don't do that. Record yourself, go back and watch it. What do you
How did your posing evolve? Because like, at least with classic, like you're a pro in open, so that's way different than like classic. I guess I'll reword the question, like how much is like posing dictated more of just the actual physique?
Okay, that's a good point. So I personally think about myself that I am a strong poser, so I think that made me look better than I really was, right? Backstage, when we're relaxed, there are guys that were plenty bigger than me, more conditioned than me, but I think it's the way I posed that put me ahead of them. So posing is one of the most important things. It can take not as good of a physique and make you beat a guy that has a better physique than you. It happened a lot in my career, just because of how I presented my body, made it look like I was bigger than I am. It's an art of illusion, really. So to answer your first question, my evolution over time was going from standard poses to change those to my body specifically to highlight my strengths but hide my weaknesses. So my abs are not proportional, right? So for me, the way I do my most muscular, I show the best and hide the worst. So I evolved that way over time to highlight the best things. So that's what you learn over time, is how to make the poses work for you specifically. Avoid the ones in your routine that aren't your strengths, and just focus on the ones that are your strengths, that make you look the best, in my opinion. So two things.
So if you guys have never posed, it's actually like extremely tiring. Like my biggest fear is, going into a posing battle on stage and then losing the endurance aspect.
It happens.
How do you know when you have the endurance to like stand up there? Because if you're neck and neck with someone, they're kind of going to see who's going to fade first.
They do that on purpose, yeah. If people are close, they'll keep you out there, they'll move you around. And if you're doing multiple classes, you have to do it more than once. My thing is, like, once you're getting closer to show, you aren't going to be able to do anything anyhow fun, so might as well practice your posing. I'd say if you can't at least pose for half an hour straight without being fatigued and cramping, you got a problem, right? So you have to at least get to that point. And the tricky thing, like what you're describing, is people don't understand you're like literally tensing every muscle in your body.
Yeah, I feel like people who never actually try real posing don't understand it at all.
From your toes up, right? And while you're
even when I'm hitting a back pose, like this is all gonna be tensed.
Yeah, your
and then if this isn't tensed and the guy next to me is, where's the judge's eyes gonna go?
There won't be any definition at all. It looks like you're smooth. That's what's hard, is you're like literally tensing your entire body while making it look like it's effortless and you're not even trying. It's really hard, and you're actually very sore after a show, like 2 days later. It's almost like you had a workout even though you were just posing. It's pretty crazy, actually. It's harder than people think.
So you're pro and open, right?
Yep.
Stomach control, very fucking important.
Yeah.
So because I'm gonna do classic, right? I'm gonna keep myself super tapered, but like for a guy, open's much harder. Like it's kind of hard. What is your like critique on like to keep the stomach in?
You have to be very aware of your presence at all times.
Even when you're like standing on the side like this.
As soon as even if you go off the side, yes, you have to keep control of your stomach. In your transitions, you have to make sure to keep your stomach in, not let it come out. A lot of guys will lose focus and they'll hit it in the pose, but in between the poses, they'll let their stomach drop. Not good. And obviously, you look distended. That's bad. So you have to be aware and keep your core tight the entire time. You just can't get lazy on stage, long story short. I think that if you are conscious of that, you can obviously keep it in. I think most of those guys are getting lazy and just let their stomach come out, and it's not a good look, obviously. It looks really bad. So stomach control. Now you can, when your back is facing the judges, you can take a little bit of a break and let your stomach relax a little bit because they're looking at you directly behind. So you can catch your breath a little bit from that way, let your stomach come out a little bit, but whenever you're facing from the side or front, you have to keep control of your stomach. Your little break is when your back is facing the judges. You can have a little bit of a break and then get right back into it. Be aware of that at all times, even from the side, like you said. They're always looking at you, so even from the side, you have to. As in, I mean like the diagonals. If you're not on the center stage, always stay tense, no matter what. They're always watching you, long story short.
And Nate has beaten some pretty crazy genetic freaks in posing battles. So like, what's your tip when okay, like this is 1, 2, 3 here, and like you're trying to out angle each other? Like, what is your key tips when you're in like a quote unquote battle for those top spots?
I mean, my opinion, I am not like the guy that's going to be like real aggressive and knock people out of the way. It's not my thing. I don't know if judges really like that, to be honest with you. But you do have to be confident in your poses. Hit the things that are your strengths. And to me, I will not, and I don't look at other competitors. I focus on the judges. That's my whole focus. I think that exudes confidence. I pretend like they don't even exist personally, and I give them all my best, really. And
so you're all you versus you.
Yeah. And I can't even tell you who was next to me. Like when I'm on stage, I can't even say who was next to me. I just know where my spot was on the line. Even backstage, I don't even look at the guys. I'm singularly focused on my best presentation, looking at the judges, seeing what they're looking at. If I see motion from a side and I see somebody doing a shot that I'm better at, I will hit that same pose. So I will see something out of like at the corner of my eye, if they're hitting like a quad or something, I will do the same pose because I know it's better, mine's better, so I'll hit that pose. Other than that, I focus on my best shot with the judges. I think that exudes confidence, and I don't knock people out of the way. I think that's poor taste personally. So that's my opinion about it.
Is there any insider info, since you're like actually licensed as a judge, that they tell in the judges circle that you feel like isn't in the public online bodybuilding sphere?
Yeah, I would say the most challenging thing as a competitor is I think that different regions might have different criteria, which makes it a little bit challenging, right? So that might be the hardest thing. Is there might be a look that they prefer out on the West Coast, there might be a different look that they prefer on the East Coast. I think it might be one of the trickier things. Like my preference personally is conditioning over size, in my personal opinion. Other people feel differently. So the interesting thing about it's a 5-person panel, right? Everybody will have a little bit of a different opinion on that. So it is kind of interesting because we do have different opinions on stage, and it's just the majority. So sometimes we don't always agree. We all have our personal tastes of what we prefer and what we think looks best for that class. But it is a little different. So that's what's tricky, is you don't know what they're looking for at that specific show. So are they looking for size? Are they looking for conditioning? I always was the conditioning guy personally. That was my fighting shot to try and outshine the competitor. So I am a little partial to conditioning, but that's what's hard, is regionally and even on the same panel, everybody will have a little bit of a difference of opinion, which makes it interesting. But.
And then in closing, I got one more for you, sure. Nate. The individual posing routine. You've seen over the decades of bodybuilding that it's kind of gone away from the individual posing routine as far as like how much weight it holds. And then you see this resurgence of the independent posing routine. Yeah. Like how much does that independent routine play against, the actual comparisons?
Yeah, good point. So as an amateur, there's not a lot of weight given to the individual routine. Okay. The exception to that would be if it's close at the night show and they're trying to make a final decision, but most of those decisions are already made, right? So we've judged and pre-judging. The night show, for amateurs at least, is generally for the crowd, for your fans, to show off your work, to have your own little time on stage. If you get worse, that's bad. Like if you go and eat, this is what I mean, you still have to stay conditioned over time, right? You have to come back in shape for finals. You can't let everything go and go eat a bunch of bad stuff between the morning show and the nighttime. Don't do that. But long story short, judging for the most part is wrapped up in the morning. Not a lot of weight is given to the individual routine at night. You can lose points though if you come back looking worse at nighttime and it's close and you're looking for an overall. It's really important because the judging is not done for the overall portion. That you still have to do. Pros, they judge the routine. That is a part of their judging criteria. Amateur side, it's more already decided on the pre-judging side. Mm-hmm. The routine will matter. Obviously, you'll get a little bit of favor from the crowd, obviously. Two, that's where, this is important. Your photos are taken from your routine, so you do want to make sure your routine looks good, or else your photos that you see posted online, they'll look like garbage because that's where they're taking those from. Mm-hmm. So you do want a good routine, but it's not really going to be counted against you. It can only help you. But again, you have to stay in shape for the overall if you're in the running for the night show. So don't go crazy in between. Either way.
Awesome. Well, there's a ton of tips right from the man himself, and like I said, if anyone knows, it's the freaking NPC judge right here, So don't be shaken on stage, I think, is the main thing, and I do see that a lot. And it kind of bothers me because they probably think that's what the judge wants to see. It's like, I'm working, but
yeah, they think that, and it's usually newer competitors. They don't know what they don't know, right? Because they don't have a mentor to help them or somebody to talk to or ask questions like this. So hopefully they see the video and understand that that's not a good thing. And if they need help, I'm always willing to help people and answer questions.
All right, I'm dropping the ad.
Yeah.
You can't blame
if
me
you have questions.
Blow them up. Okay?
Ask within reason.
I'm dropping the ad. No, don't. He's got a busy ass schedule, so don't be bothering him that bad. But
within reason, I like to help people. That's the phase I'm in, is mentoring and helping and giving back a little bit and helping where I can. So I do like to help and give some feedback if I can.